How can I change the things I'm tired of in the relationship and make it fun again? So how to change things in the relationship. And I want to add in here, in the relationship between you and your spouse, but also in the relationship with you and you, because that is a big important part of the relationship is how you're feeling and how you're doing with yourself and life, how you're managing life, because how you show up in the relationship has a big influence. Here's the elements of change. There are three main elements of change. Whenever we want change, these are the basic components. Of course, if a person does not have the desire or the commitment, taking action for the change is not going to happen. Okay, so that part's easy to understand. If a person has the desire and the commitment to take action, then they're going to work at it. So that's the good wolf. The good wolf makes a commitment and because of integrity begins to work on it and continue until that change has occurred and hopefully maintained. We do have a tendency to get lazy, so some habits take extra work. And as we do that, then we can make that a new habit. With that desire, the next part is if you are working hard for a change and it's not happening, then often what is missing is the understanding. We call that the education, and that goes back to the process or the how to make the change. And that's a multi-million dollar industry on how to get fit and get in shape and lose weight. And we just passed January. Statistically, 80% of all people that started a diet is done with it by now until next January. So that's why it's helpful to get education. And as far as that topic of losing weight, there's lots of different opinions. So with that, I would also suggest that you have to experiment and try with different things and trust your gut on what feels good and what you're motivated to do. A poor plan enacted is better than zero plan. And so you experiment and do things with that until you feel like you're making progress toward whatever goal that is. It's also possible that you do know how to make the change and you have desire and commitment to do that, but we are also influenced by others. And so an important part of that is support. And I also put not sabotage. So if I'm crossing the street and there's three big guys on the other side of the street that say I'm not going to come across the street, they're going to win. But if I have a whole football team on my side and they can give me support, then I'm going to make it across the street, even though there might be three guys saying they don't want me to make it there. Maybe that's a silly example, but support. I often work with spouses and individuals who have addiction issues, whether that be drugs and alcohol or internet addiction and pornography and things like that. And it's really helpful to have support to overcome those addictions. And so when you have a goal you're working toward, you're motivated for that and committed to that, and you know how, then it helps to have support for that. So with that support, now, like I mentioned before, the good wolf is good at making commitments and with integrity following through in working and changing those habits. Now, the bad wolf is not. We all have that part of us, that survival part of us, and we're into comfort and spoiling ourselves. And in most cases, when it comes to change, we don't want to change. As a matter of fact, when it comes to survival, psychologically speaking, the unknown is more scary than known pain. And that's true for any change. So how do we motivate the bad wolf, that part of us that is afraid of the unknown? And that is through increasing our desire and commitment. It's simple and yet profound as we apply that principle. So the bad wolf doesn't care about change unless there's a reward or there are painful situations that we want to get out of. Psychologically speaking, we are motivated twice as much to get out of pain than we are to obtain a reward. So if you include both, then you have 3 times the chance of making change, even when it's something you don't really want to, as long as you hold with a commitment to fulfill the reward and consequences that you've set up for yourself. So how does that work in a relationship? In a couple, for example, some couples, they come in and they talk about how when they get into fights, they start calling each other names and being very disrespectful and verbally abusive to each other. This is extreme cases, even though if you don't have that, you can still use the same principle, but it is a common one for a lot of couples that may come into the office. And so it's strategizing ahead of time before the next event happens. And that's to attach pain and pleasure to the unwanted behavior. So making a list of unwanted words that are used or behaviors. This is also something good for parents, helping children make changes, good parenting. And in marriage, it seems like we're always parenting each other anyway. And that's a whole nother topic. Okay, so if you have a list of unwanted behaviors that you want to eliminate, the agreement would be, for example, and this is a process statement, process strategy, attaching that pain and pleasure. With each word that is on the blacklist, you attach such as 2 minutes of chores, like cleaning the bathroom or scrubbing the toilet, picking up the dog poop out the backyard, or doing dishes, or whatever you put on the list as a quick chore, and something that you're willing to do to pay penance for the violation of the commitment that you have made to not use those words or to do that certain behavior. And so that would be the pain attached to that. With couples, we set up that is if you call names, then you, within 30 minutes of that, for one, if you're doing that and you get into that, you're supposed to take a break. And that's when you can go make up for the behavior that you agreed not to do anymore. So you go do your chores, and then hopefully that helps you calm down, get your heart rate down, and you get the good wolf back and you can go back and communicate. Part of the pleasure of that might be if we go 7 days without that behavior, then the reward would be the spouse would give like a 30-minute back rub or foot rub. The last couple I did that with, he didn't like his feet rubbed, but he really liked to have his head rubbed. So that was something he was looking forward to if his wife violated the agreement that they had. You want to figure out what it is motivating for you.